Kayla and I, we couldn't get the whole crew together today for a regular episode. So Kayla and I decided
people need content. So we're here.
Right. the public demands it. And we decided to do an episode talking about mushrooms.
Fun guy.
Yeah, fun guy. Yeah, I'm a fun guy. Yeah. And before we start, I want to make it very clear that Kayla and I are not giving any type of medical or psychological advice. We are not qualified to do that. We don't have the credentials. I mean, I sure as hell don't. I don't know about Kayla, but I all right, go. So didn't want to speak out of turn that you spent years in med school and didn't tell anybody. But if you want to find a way to help to improve your mood or your social state or your physical well-being, to seek out the advice of your doctor or other qualified medical professionals. Not podcasts, where the last people you should go to for tips. Exactly. Yeah. This is just storytelling, just telling you guys how this has affected us
and what we found out.
Exactly. So, I guess I'll start just asking. So I don't know if you saw the title of the stream, Kayla, but I titled it like a daily diet of mushrooms or whatever. And on the thumbnail, I put every day for a year, because that's essentially what I did. I took them every day for a year. What's your experience with this? I don't want to keep saying it because I don't want the video to be taken down. So we're talking about a specific type of mushroom, folk. I think we all know, but what's your experience with the Kayla?
So I had tried them younger, as like a party kind of thing. And
define younger.
Like early 20s, I think, was my first time ever diving into. Can we say psychedelics? Is that fine?
Yeah, absolutely.
The realm of psychedelics, or fungi, whatever. And I had really profound experiences, but like I really wasn't mature enough to take full stock of the experiences that I had. So through my 20s, it was just like a fun, cool thing to do if I had the opportunity. But as I got into my 30s and I got older, I've never done them consistently like that, but I started doing them for more like emotional and like mental reasons, and paying attention to the experience more than I did when I was young. And that's when I was like, okay, there's something else going on here. And then I started to try to understand them and educate myself. And then the more I learned about it, the more I wanted to do it. But I've never done them. I've never microdosed or like done consistent time frame like that. So respect to that. But I do, now that I'm older, it's a very frequent thing in my life. So yeah.
Yeah. So you tried it when you were in your early 20s, you said. So that was just like experimentation to see how it affected you and everything. How would you describe it when?
Profound still. Looking back, I can say profound.
Do you remember your first experience with it, if you can describe it? Because I remember mine very vividly. But
okay, yes, but I will say that my first experience was I was scared. I was really scary. But I went into it with like a really scared mindset, so I think I got exactly what I prepared for out of it. I remember being really scared, and then I remember being like, I was so terrified, and that was so fine, So yeah, that's what I remember from the first time. I remember being like, whoa. And I remember taking a long break before I tried it again, but I had no idea what I was getting into because I hadn't done any of the like education or legwork or whatever. So that makes total sense to me.
Yeah. The first time I tried it, I never tried any illicit substances. Actually, I was such a fucking nerd until after I got out of the Army. Say what?
I said, can't relate.
Shit. So, until after I got out of the Army, I mean, alcohol was the only thing that I had up until that point, and which is funny because I don't drink at all anymore. But
I'm not really a drinker either. That's funny about most people that I know that do, with fungi, whatever. Okay. They're not big drinkers either, so it's great.
So I'll ask about the drinking. So with the naming it, so on TikTok, when I first started doing TikTok videos like 2 years ago, about 6 months in, I started talking about my experience with the Fun Guy, and to get around the censorship and everything, because they will take the videos down if it's reference and stuff like that. I always referred to it as cream of mushroom soup. That's just kind of what I did, and I would. I made a whole video where I picked up a can of cream of mushroom soup and I talked about, how many grams of cream of mushroom soup that I consumed before I made the video and everything. I made like 15 videos. It's a whole series of me talking about how I did this. And so to this day, people that comment, they still remember that. And they ask about the cream of mushroom soup and everything. So it's a funny running.
That's a really
it's a great
for it.
Yeah, running gag I got for it. And I was asked about the drinking too. So drinking is something that I've never really enjoyed. Well, that's not true. I enjoyed being drunk. Being drunk is great. Being drunk is one of the best feelings on earth. Drinking, however, the middle part is amazing. The first and end is pretty awful. Like I don't like the taste of pretty much any alcohol. Like it's poison. It tastes awful. And I always thought that it's kind of I hate the fact that like the measure of your masculinity is how much you like shitty alcohol. Is like the more bitter and disgusting it is, the more of a man you are. It's like, no, that's vile. I don't really believe anyone who says that they like the taste of certain alcohol or beer, especially. I always joke that if you could get drunk off Sprite, no one would ever drink beer. Like it would never happen because Sprite actually tastes good. But I did it because I did enjoy getting drunk and it was pretty fun. But somewhere around 30, maybe 32, I realized the hangover stopped being worth it. They just stopped being worth it for me. I just I would get drunk, I'd have a blast, and then I would sleep away. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. It's like, I had a great time on
tomorrow.
Exactly. I had a great time Friday evening, but all Saturday morning and most of Saturday afternoon is recovering from the hangover. And I mean, sure, I could just, drink a bunch of Gatorade while I'm getting drunk, but then it's just work. And so, yeah, I stopped drinking a long time ago. It wasn't worth it. So yeah, we're on the same page there. That's good stuff.
I drink socially now, usually because people can't deal with being like, I don't drink. Or
they get weird about it.
They want a reason. They need, So usually I've gotten to the point where I'm so annoyed. I get so annoyed explaining to people that I don't drink. Like I'll take a drink and be polite. And if you really watch me or know me, I'll have that drink for like 3 hours. I'll have it till someone's like, oh, it's warm. And I'm like, yeah, thanks for noticing. I'll grab another and try and do this over again. Here we go.
God, that is so, because I am the same way. I will socially drink because
it's not
explaining this story it's not worth the time, man. It's just not worth it. It's like, you don't,
it's like, stop being weird. Nobody has to drink. It's not that weird to not
right. Drink. It's like you say you don't drink. They're like, oh, is it a religious thing? No, it's not a religious thing. Is it like is it a sensitive? No, it's not that. I just don't like poison to drink. I'm sorry. Like what?
If I do drink, I drink with a purpose. Like I block off 3 days. That's it. Like I'm coming to do one thing, and it is to get very drunk. But that's like an annual thing. I mean, it's
an annual thing. Yeah. I never drank socially until I stopped drinking because I didn't see the point of having like a pizza and a beer. No, that's disgusting. I'm going to drink something that tastes good. If I'm going to drink, it's going to be to get drunk because getting drunk is really fun. But
it's really fun.
It's really fun. Yeah, it's I recently started watching Mad Men, which is a show that I've always almost liked. It never really, the show is somehow worse than the sum of its parts or less than the sum of its parts. Like it should. I love so many scenes in Mad Men, but you put them all together, I'm like,
I've never seen it. Is that the one with I know it's got a hot lead. That guy.
John Hamm.
Oh yeah. I should watch it.
Yeah.
Watch it because that's already got 1 point for it.
Yeah, John Hamm. And it's funny because he's an ad executive in Manhattan in the 60s. Yeah. And they're ad men. They call them Mad Men. And like a quarter of the plot of the show is about how all the women want to bang John Hamm. That's like seriously like a fourth of the show. And I get it. He's a very attractive man. Yeah, I understand. But then I found out John Hamm's a producer. Like, bro, you just made a show where it's all about you getting fucked all the time. That was pretty funny.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's weird.
I know, right? It is pretty funny, but it's a neat show. But anyway, I learned a trick on this because like people smoke and drank all the time back in the 60s, like at work. They're sitting around just getting a buzz on, and they're creatives, So, getting a little drunk kind of helps the creative juices flow.
Sure.
And one of the and his partner, a guy named Roger Sterling, his business partner, he was telling one of the younger ad executives a trick for drinking with different companies and stuff. And he says, "Oh yeah, order a scotch and water on the rocks, and then you just drink it until it's like halfway full, because the scotch will like sink to the bottom, the water floats to the top, and you just drink half of it and then dump it out and then get another one. You can just keep drinking all night and no one's going to think you're weird." Because this is funny, we spent 10 minutes talking about booze, but that's not the point of the show here. But when it comes to drinking, it's kind of weird. If you don't drink with people, it gets weird, because not only are they peppering you with questions and shit, but as people, like say you're the DD, everyone else around you is getting drunk. Their fun level, like every 10 minutes, gets higher and higher. Like everything is funny to them. Yours stays the same, which would be fine, except they start to resent you for it. They start to be mad that you don't find, that polka dotted dress hilarious. It's like, no, it's just a fucking polka dot dress. What's so funny about it? And they're in tears laughing about it. So yeah. Gotta learn tricks like that when you don't drink anymore. But
and you'll find out who your friends are really fast too. You'll find out who your real friends are. If you're struggling with this and like trying to stop drinking for any reason, you'll find out who your friends are. I'll definitely say that.
What do you mean by that? Like, because there's a lot of ways you can take that.
Okay, so when I was younger, I was definitely a party girl. We came to talk about fungi, not alcohol, but here we are.
I know.
I was definitely a party girl. I think I'm still known to be kind of a party girl because I went that hard for that long. And for me, it was a slow thing. I just like kind of stopped enjoying drinking. But when I became aware of it, when you drink often, you're most likely around other people that want to drink often. And I'm not saying that that's not a judgment or anything, but when you start to drink less, you get busier. And, like I said, I've got some things to do tomorrow. So it's a different lifestyle if it's not part of your lifestyle. And that's what I meant. Like, as my lifestyle changed, as I
see.
Myself, drink more often, or, go out with my friends, as the FOMO faded and all that stuff, so did a lot of people that I thought were with me all the time because we were going to be friends forever. When the case is that wasn't the case. They were with me because I was the party.
You had a shared interest in the booze. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. We spent 12 minutes on the booze, but it's about the fun guy. So the first time I tried it, I've wanted to try it for my entire life. Basically, I was fascinated with, I had a hard time because like I knew what it was like to be drunk, and being drunk doesn't feel like a separate reality. It feels like, a slightly altered reality. You still see what's going on. It might be a little blurry. Jokes are a little funnier. It's easier to talk to people. You have that liquid courage. So that's the only frame of reference I had. But I would hear people talk about seeing things that weren't there, or hearing things that weren't there, or, like feeling like you were someone else. Or it's just like, man, this is like, I couldn't imagine what that was like. So I was really interested in trying it. And my girlfriend at the time, her brother had a hookup to get some. And so we were really excited to do it, and we got it from him. And I remember one night we just sat down and we tried it. And he told us that it takes about 45 minutes to kick in. So, give yourself a little bit of time. And I asked, okay, how long does it last? And he says, about 6, maybe 8 hours. I was like, what? I was not
all night.
I was not ready for that. And so we're like, okay, we'll try this at 7 p.m. And so it'll take us through the night and everything. So we tried it, waited 30 minutes, nothing. 45 minutes, nothing.
You went back in and then you made a mistake, didn't you?
Well, nothing happened at all. It turned out nothing happened at all. Because he told us like, hey, about a 1/4 gram to 1/2 gram. He's like, that's about what you want to start. If you're a beginner, that's pretty good. And we did it, and we got nothing. And then we tried it again. And then I was telling my buddy about it. I was my workout partner. And he said that, he's like, that's weird. He says, do you take any SSRIs? He said, yeah. He goes, well, there it is. There you go. He's like, if you take SSRIs, it won't work. That's the first science lesson I learned about that. So I stopped taking it because I just went off. Done. And the next month I tried it. So my girlfriend was taking them too. That's why I didn't work on her too. And she didn't stop taking hers because her mental health was important to her. And it's like, fuck it, I don't care. So I didn't take it. And I remember that the night I first tried it, we were watching The Day After Tomorrow. We had the movie.
Choice? What?
Bad idea, TJ. Bad idea to watch The Day After Tomorrow on that. And I just remember that the first thing I noticed when it kicked in was my mood swings. I would just jump from hysterical laughter, just like nothing had been funnier to me in my life than, the Nintendo Switch sitting on the table. It just made me just like my side split with laughter for no reason. And then 2 minutes later, tears. I'm just bawling in sadness, for no reason at all. And then The Day After Tomorrow is a disaster film, for those of you who don't know. And so the world is coming to an end, and I'm watching these waves crashing and killing these people and these poor kids, and I'm bawling my eyes out, And then I remember a Dave Chappelle sketch where he talks about doing, psychedelics, and he mentioned the time dilation, and it clicked right then because I felt like I had been on this for 3 hours. It was 15 minutes. It was 15 minutes. My mind was shattered.
So slow.
Yeah.
I always feel that way. I always feel like, are we really moving through time still, or?
Well, yeah. All right. So then I started thinking about that very same thing. And so this is what happens too, is that the number one thing that happens is I don't really see a lot of visual stuff. I have to try to do that. If I try, I can make it happen. But I don't know about you. Does that happen to you like naturally?
Like if I'm on a trip and then I look at the trees or I look at the stars, like I can focus on the visuals and I can be mind blown by the visuals, but it's not the primary.
Yeah.
My experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised by that because it actually takes some work.
Myself. I just I don't want to talk to anybody. Like I'm thinking. So
yeah, that's the exact same thing that I went through. But so when that happens, you start thinking about small concepts that you never really spend a whole lot of time on, and I started thinking about the concept of time itself and how like time is literally our fourth dimension. Like we say we're three-dimensional, we live in a three-dimensional world, we live in a four-dimensional world at the very least, probably a lot more. But time is not a spatial dimension. It's a dimension that is linear. It only goes one way. And the weird thing is that I started going down these thoughts too when I had is that like mathematically, there's no reason that time only goes in one direction. There isn't. Like
first of all, but we can have another episode on that.
Well, it's like but like as far as we know, we have no method into traveling backward in time. Now, you can manipulate time fairly easily. I mean, not easily, but you can. Like the satellites that are orbiting the Earth are experiencing time differently than we are. They're like they have to fix the clocks to make sure the times actually match. And if you like go at a certain speed, time slows down. You orbit around a massive object, time slows down. And so you just start thinking about this and how like strange the world is, and you will focus on this for what feels like hours, and it'll be 10 minutes. And so that's kind of like how I first went through this.
So the first time, my first like intentional, like private experience with it, not at a party or like, really wanting, was very, very similar. I made better choices. I watched Rick and Morty. But I remember you thought about time. I remember like my first trip, I was just like, I mean, I went hard. I was like, what is consciousness? And
wow.
My whole first trip was like just thinking all the thoughts about like, am I the sound in my brain or am I my skin suit here and all that stuff? So, but Rick and Morty helped, made it like a little bit more fun and digestible. But I'm definitely the same way with the visuals. I love being outside and I love nature and I love art. So really, I think a lot of the times if I do like micro dosing or anything like that, it's for those objectives, just so I can absorb and see more of whatever I'm going to look at that day. But I think once I experienced for myself too, like I had a lot of trauma. I have a TBI. I have like a scar going all the way back into my head here from, well, I don't know if I should say it like that. I have all kinds of stuff messing with my memory. And the more I did that, it was something I thought I was never going to get back. Like my brain was never going to function like other people's anymore. And I'd like given up on my short-term memory, all kinds of stuff by my late 20s. And then when I started doing these more often and I saw for myself that like, I really feel like I'm sharper than I was. Like I've almost regained some things in my brain maybe. And I don't know, that's just my experience, but I know I've read a million times that they create neural pathways in your brain. Like they're helping us use more of our brain. So once I had like had that experience that I felt like tangible for myself, I was just like, this is a great thing for me, like positive thing for me, so, and I feel like it does that for me every time. I'm always like thinking more clear. Even when I'm not trying to have an experience like it, they've just improved my brain. Does that make sense?
It makes 100% sense because it took me a while to get there, because generally when I would try this, the experience is, I also want to say to anybody out there that the experience isn't as scary as you think it's going to be. That's the number one thing I want to put out there, because everyone is told these legends about how you'll take it and then you'll feel like you're Superman. You'll jump out of a window. I've actually never heard of that happening to anybody in real life. It's an old wives' tale. But
if you think you're Superman, you're going to be here like this. You're going to be like, don't let me get up.
Anything green will terrify you. You think you're Superman and everything. But no, it's just like what Kayla said. It helps you. It made me more me. And I felt like, so one of the issues I had is that I have a very difficult time expressing uncomfortable emotions. I don't like it. It makes me, I kind of cringe just thinking about it, but when you take the substance, it amplifies all of your emotions times 10. And one thing that I noticed is I had way too much sad songs, way too many sad songs on my playlist, because folks, when you take, the mushrooms and listen to music, it feels like you have never listened to music a day in your life. It is just, I cannot stress enough how powerful the music feels. It's like you can touch it. It's just like
you've never heard of music before. You've
exactly.
Never heard music before.
That's the best way I can describe it. It feels like you've never actually listened to anything. And I began to notice how the music was affecting my mood. If I listened to a happy song, I was through the roof with happiness, even if I didn't even like the song or if I didn't want to listen to it. And I was going, then when I listened to a sad song, mood just dropped. And I was like, all right, that's actually happening to me. I just don't notice it when I'm not on this substance. And I notice the same thing with the weather. Like when it's a sunny day, it's elation that I feel just from the sun being outside. But if it's dark and it's cloudy, it's awful. It's just like some of the worst feelings ever. So you notice that too?
Yeah, no, it's the exact same for me.
Yeah. It's kind of wild on that. And but throughout my day-to-day life, after I got used to it, because I go through these big swings with it. I remember, I will tell you this, I very rarely got angry on it. It's hard, actually. I don't know about you, but do you have
the most intense negative emotion I've ever had was fear. Like, I've been like very afraid, but usually I have like things in my head. I've never, I would say the same.
Yeah, for some reason, it's hard to get angry. It's hard to get angry. And for me, I think you said you were different on this. It's very hard to sleep. I cannot sleep at all.
I can sleep. But I am like into like trying. I have a dream journal, but they do make me sleepy. But I almost feel like I've given myself like permission to like carry my experiences into my dreams or whatever. I don't know, but I can, no problem. But
see, it makes me
really intense dreams.
It makes me very sleepy, but I can't sleep. Like I can lay down and rest. But I remember like one of the most powerful experiences I had two. I hesitate to call them dreams because I was definitely awake. But one of them, I think I told you guys about it before. I was time traveling. I was just jumping to different areas of my life, and I felt like I was there. I knew I was in bed, but it in my mind I like crafted an elevator and I was going to different floors.
Perhaps. I don't know.
Say what?
Like astral projection, perhaps?
Yeah, like an astral projection. Exactly. Yeah, that's what it felt like. It was just like I was just bouncing around from different times and locations in my life and different people I hadn't thought about in forever. And then I also had another like weird dream where you mentioned like, am I the voice in my brain or am I me?
My inner narrative, yeah. Like my inner narrative never shuts up. But anytime I'm on a trip, like it's me and her. I'm like, girl, shut up.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Hold on. Well, we're gonna that. Hold on. I want to talk about that in a bit. That's something that okay. Hold on. 2K.
I feel like Kayla, you're getting crazy.
All right. No, I want to ask about that. That's so. I was in my brain, like how I said like an elevator in my brain. I felt like I was standing, and I had like visualized my brain around me, and there was me, little TJ, standing in there. And for some reason, I know I was for some reason. This quote was echoing, just bouncing off the walls. And it was a quote from Karl Marx. And it was what was it? The traditions of dead generations echo like a nightmare on the brains of the living. And that just kept bouncing off the walls. And it was terrifying to me. But those are like the two. And those are only the worst trips I had. Most of them were pretty good. But after I got over that, this took weeks before I was actually comfortable with this. I started doing it every day. And have you ever seen the movie Limitless? You ever see that movie?
Oh, I love me some. What's his name? That guy?
Bradley Cooper, right?
Of course, I've seen Limitless a few times.
After I started regularly doing this once a day, I was like, I get it now. I felt like I mentioned before, I did feel like Superman. My brain was operating at like 3 times capacity. I was more creative than I ever been.
Yes, same for me. Like the creativity. Like I call myself a creative and an artist now, and like that's something I never would have said before.
Really?
I started doing this stuff. I didn't even know. You remember? Okay, I'm not a good like drawer or like artist like that. But remember when I was like posting my stuff? I didn't think before I started doing all this stuff I couldn't even draw a stick figure.
Wow.
I got into, and I still draw just like for therapeutic. I'm not that great, but I'm better than a stick figure. So that was all post me getting into this part of my life where I experienced stuff like that.
That's incredible, actually. I just assumed you always knew how to draw.
Show you one of my drawings, but it's really not that good.
Well, no, I've seen like you've posted a few things where you draw. Yeah, you're pretty good at it,
right? Like it's kind of an interesting late life discovery, but I never drew.
That's amazing. Wow. So you found a new talent.
I guess kind of, yeah. I mean, and that started me on the road to a lot of other stuff. I would do all kinds of like art and creativity and stuff like that. And now I feel like that is who I am. It's part of my life. This podcast, probably wouldn't be our podcast.
Oh my God.
Wouldn't be a thing if it wasn't for that too. Again, we've talked about when I came up with this random idea, but here we are. Like we can credit it to one guy.
See, that's interesting to me because I don't relate to that experience at all because I didn't get any new talents. I still can't draw. I can't draw. I can't draw.
That you're not crediting yourself enough. Like you weren't doing this a few years ago, were you?
It was, but I always wanted to do this and I knew I could. And so It's not a new talent. I guess
well, yeah, but still, like, I don't know. Even knowing you, like, as your friend, like 5 years ago, even knowing that you wanted to do it, like, I don't know that you could have been doing it like you are now. So I think
I think it came after. I'm pretty sure it came. They were pretty close together. Yeah, because I made a couple videos. Who cares about this shit? But I'll think of the timeline. It doesn't matter. But I'll think about that. But but it kind of flows with what you were saying. I always said that it makes me more me. Like everything that I was, it just amplified it. And so I don't know if I got anything new. I discovered more things about myself, I guess, but a new talent. I wish I could have had that. That's kind of incredible.
Well, your life, you're still young. Okay, you don't know. You're not done yet. Okay,
yeah, that's true. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, give it time. Yeah, and the 2K-less thing. I want to talk about that because one of the things that I talked about a lot with this is this. It sounds so cliche, but the self-discovery. And I had to come to terms with a lot of uncomfortable realities about myself and things that I just didn't like acknowledging. Times where I had been, like incredibly selfish and cruel and dismissive and judgmental and arrogant. And I always say that, listen, I'll be humble when I have something to be humble about. That this doesn't happen terribly often, but I mean, I could be a better person in that way. And so it's kind of like you have two dogs inside of you, an evil dog and huh?
Yeah, you do have two dogs inside you.
Yeah, it's like
you.
An evil one and a good one, and it's just a day-to-day struggle on which one wins. And I had to face the fact that, man, the evil dog won more times than I care to acknowledge. And so that's what I would say with the two. Yeah. But you seem to be saying
that's a very similar experience too with the fear. Like I keep saying how scared I was, and when I think back to my first most of my first trips, like that was what I had to get through. And that was kind of one of the ugly things. I'm glad you said it that way. Like that was the ugly thing about me that I had to face, and I wasn't going to get to any of the other fun or, like warm parts or, more exciting parts of a trip until I faced me. And that really, I think most people that I talk to that, do this stuff, similar experiences, like first it makes you face yourself. And for me it's fear. I had to realize I had to face the fact that I lived in fear 24/7. So yeah, same.
that's I hated that because I had that too, because there are very few things I respect less than cowardice, and finding out that I was a coward in a lot of ways is I hate thinking about it.
That was a profound statement that you just made. Here. Yes, I felt the same.
Which one?
Everything you just said. I felt this exact same way. Like finding out that I was a coward, and there was all these things about me that same. But that was well said, TJ.
Well, one of them. See, this is why I wish I could remember the timeline on this, on doing social media stuff and the shrooms, because the number one reason that I never started doing stuff like this years ago. The number one reason was because I did not want to hear the sound of my voice. Most people hate the sound of their voice, right? Because it's not the voice that you hear when you speak. And so whenever I heard my voice, recorded and someone played it back, I'm like, oh, that is just terrible. That's it. That's literally it. That's literally the reason I didn't do it, because I wasn't comfortable with the sound of my voice. And I do a lot of public speaking. I've done it for years. I'm very good at it. I know that. And people have been telling me since I was a kid, oh, you've got a great voice, man. You have a fantastic voice. It's pretty good. I hate it. To this day, I still hate it. And it was that irrational fear that not only would I not like doing it, but man, everyone's going to make fun of me because I sound stupid. I like dumb shit like that. And so, it's really embarrassing to just lock down how irrational a lot of your fears are when it comes right down to it.
Well, and I have a show recommendation. I've already told you to watch this, but since we're live, I'm going to preach about that show on Netflix that I love to tell people to watch. There's a show on Netflix, and it's I believe the creator lives here in Nashville. I won't go too far into how I found out about it, but it's called Midnight Gospel. And anyway, even if you don't decide to take fungi or something, it's a really profound little show. But I don't think that if you could get into it without it. But it has episodes on really it's covering a lot of our things like that, like fear and what most people are really afraid of, and thoughts that we all think. And it's really complex and deep. But 10 out of 10 would recommend eating some fungi and then watching it. But if you don't want to do that, just watch it in general, because it's kind of those vibes. But
yeah. And once you learn those lessons, then I like how your cat keeps it's like Wolfie usually does that in all my productions, and so it's funny seeing the other side of that. But once I got over that, and that took a while, this is not for the faint of heart. This took me weeks and weeks of doing it once a week to finally conquer the difficulty. I remember my girlfriend would walk in to me in the living room, and I would be listening to some Dragon Ball Z song that I heard back in 2001 or something, just just in a puddle of tears. And it's like Goku sacrificed himself for Earth and he left his son behind. Just like the emotions are just so powerful. But I needed to work through that. It made me a better man in a lot of ways.
Get out of your brain or your heart or your head or wherever your body until you faced it. So
exactly. And then after that is when I started doing it. Literally, I did it every day for almost a year. And I got to the point where I was taking about 5 grams a day generally, which no one believes when I say it, because that's an insane amount to take in one time. That are like, don't do that at first. If you try it first, try literally like a quarter of a gram or something. But I was taking like 5 a day, and I was driving. I was going to work. I was I out in public and everything. I had to stop doing that. I no longer do that, folks.
That
Especially
have been fun for you.
Well,
been like.
Most of the time it was like 90% of the time it was actually great because, you know, the superpowers you get and everything. Yeah. Like you're thinking
sensitive, irritable about other human beings. I get like really aware of like how nobody else has done this, you know, and I'm like,
okay. I'll put a pin in that because I want to talk about the work thing. So the reason I stopped doing it during my day-to-day life is because while it did make me a superhuman, I also had to deal with the drawbacks. And the drawbacks are you're shaking, you know, like your hands are sweating, your eyes are red as fuck, so everyone knows something's going on.
Their eyes get so red. There's no secret.
No
red eyes. I'm not smoking weed.
Done. And then one day I drove home in rush hour traffic, and it was the most terrifying experience of my life. I have never been as scared as I was to go through like moderately busy rush hour traffic. I said, never again. Well, because so what I would do, there was
over. I've been like, I'm gonna be here for 8 hours.
Oh yeah, so I was taking, it was a way I usually don't go, and usually I know my route home is that'd been fine, but I was going somewhere else because my girlfriend's car was in the shop, so I had to pick her up and then take her to the shop and go through the deep inner city traffic or whatever, and then back. And no, awful. And so I've never done that again since. But shit,
it's definitely like if I do them, I like to set my intentions. I like to go put my feet on the earth, do a little grounding, remind myself that I know where that I'm about to have this experience, but I'm right here. And I like to set my intentions. I like to have goals in mind of like Scarlett. Now she wants out, so she's scratching on the door. Do you hear that? She's cute.
Oh, I hear that. Oh, I didn't know what that was.
She's so demanding. So anyway, like I like to be intentional about it, but that is also who I am. Like I try to be intentional about everything in my life, but I do them, you know, for funsies, but still, even for funsies, like I just go and I like to get ready and make sure that I'm safe. It's private. So, but that's me. Like, that's just how I like to do it.
Well, so that kind of leads into something else to talk about here. One thing that I wasn't expecting that is an added bonus on this is when growing up, I played sports all the time as a kid, and I was in there. My body's paying for it now and everything. Both my hips are artificial. My knee has no cart. Yeah, I have 2 titanium hips. I have no cartilage in my knee. I got my body.
DJ, I know this about you, man. Are you okay?
Yeah, I know, right? Wild, right? But so you know what? I never stretched. I didn't have to. I could get away with it. Turns out I couldn't. It caught up with me after a while. But when I take the mushrooms, stretching feels amazing.
Oh man,
amazing! Yes. Like I will go out of my way to stretch. It feels so good. So, in fact, physical activity in and of itself feels incredible. It just awakens parts of your body that you never even felt before.
Your brain, this is what it's awakening.
The brain I was expecting though. I was not counting on like the rest of the body and how your
body was going to react and respond and what that was going to feel like.
I wasn't ready for that at all. So I had mentioned that I had brought some nerd shit to go over on what the folks in the lab coats have to say about this.
Okay.
Can you read that?
You bring nerd shit. Educate me.
All right. So this is from Johns Hopkins University. So these folks know what they're talking about. And in 2000, so believe it or not, there's a shockingly small amount of research on psilocybin, which I don't think we've mentioned, which is the active ingredient in the mushrooms that actually, and I haven't gone through this yet, so Kayla and I are going to discover this together. But one thing that I did know was something Kayla mentioned in the beginning of the broadcast, that it has been shown to create neurogenesis, which is incredibly difficult. Or neurogenesis, for those of you from Alabama, that means like your parts of your brain are growing, like the neurons are actually spreading out and creating new neural pathways. And like nerve growth is very difficult. It's one of the most complex things in the human body, and it's hard to do. And psilocybin helps cause that. So in 2006, milestone publication, psilocybin can occasion mystical type experiences having substantial and sustained personal meaning and spiritual significance on the safety and enduring positive effects of a single dose of psilocybin is widely considered the landmark study that sparked the renewal of psychedelic research worldwide. So this is a perfect question for you, Kayla. When it comes to like a mystical experience, like what have you gleaned from your experience so far?
Okay, well, now I'm gonna get really weird on the internet.
Hey, that's what it's for. Hey, that's
well, so let me preface this by saying that I already believe I went into my trips with this belief system, and I think that's always important context. I do think that what your predisposition and your who you are matters, when you go into this. But that's why I said that caveat. But I've always thought or very strongly believe that I'm clairvoyant since I was a little girl. And I've had indescribable, honestly, I'm trying to think of words for it, spiritual experiences. Well, first of all, with just what I'm seeing. So I'm saying that because we know, and we talk about people feeling or hallucinating on, shrooms and stuff like that. But for me, it could have been that, but I already had this belief system. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. I see all kinds of things, and I do the same thing that I do when I'm sober, which is ignore them usually. But as far as I think the most important spiritual answer here is when I started doing this, or when I really started doing it intentionally, I was seeking something for sure, not just an experience, but I was definitely seeking spiritual clarity. That is an intention that I've gone into, like I said, setting my intentions and doing my groundwork. I've gone into trips being like, God, are you there? Can you show me? And I think I talked about what my belief system on my intro episode, but I do believe in a God or creator. Not necessarily sure if it's the God of the Bible. Could be, maybe not. I don't know. I have this very abstract belief system, but it all came really from that. And it's really still hard for me to explain, because how do you explain trips, or that I know that there's a God or that I had this experience or whatever. So I think that I've been searching spiritually since the day, I was about to say the day I left the Haven, but probably the day I got there. And really before that, I was always searching, and this is the first time in my life, and this experience has so much, is one of the few things that I can be like, yep, has to have something to do with it. That I feel a lot of peace. We talked briefly on another episode, I think with Kai. We were trying to get Kai to try it.
We were really pushing on her
about we were talking about her spirituality and my spirituality and all that stuff. And I'm truly, I'll say what we were talking about then. I have no fear of the afterlife. I'm not afraid of death at all. I've really honestly been like that. I don't have those thoughts that I think that fear comes from, that a lot of people have about death. And I think that it really, that solidified in me, and that changed after I started doing this regular, or, with that intention or that question in mind. So,
do you believe in an afterlife?
So, Yes, but I think that we do this life a few times. I think that that's just me. I know some people are gonna be like, oh no, but I very much believe in reincarnation. And I think, in my opinion, it can go hand in hand with believing in God and religion, because where did
Sure.
God say you only get to do it one time? Where did he say, I made you fearfully and perfectly made one time? He didn't say that. So I don't know. I feel like our consciousness is who we really are, like our spirit. When we say like spirit, I think that's the same. And I think that you come back through with different purposes, and maybe as many times as you need to, and then at some point there is an end, or there is a peaceful place that when you've gleaned or done what you're here to do. I don't know. I just think our world is like hanging, like Kai said, it's so perfectly hanging by a thread, all kinds of little threads. So for me, it's just all too perfect to be totally coincidental, and it goes into that. But I know that you don't agree.
Oh, well, no, I wasn't going to touch that at all. I have a couple
Okay, we
things.
can talk about that later.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that the Bible actually does say you die once. In Hebrews, it says, it is appointed unto man once to die, and after this, the judgment. So that means, like,
Okay.
I don't care. I mean, I don't care, but I'm just saying, like, it is in the Bible. But and the other thing I wanted to say is about
I didn't say that I totally believe the Bible is like the word of God either, though. So who says
exactly? So it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
My God might not be the
yeah, not limited by the 66 books of the Protestant Bible.
Caveat, because it's like, come for me in the comments. So thank you.
Yeah, and so also what I'll say is where you mentioned you believed in reincarnation and how, after we experience this life, that for, whatever reason or however mechanism, we come back in a different form, different consciousness, or plant life or whatever. And I gotta say, that to me, that is the worst fucking case scenario. Like, I don't know, like what
it's really it could be rough. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I don't know what happens after we die either. I have no clue, but I know what I hope doesn't happen, and I hope I don't have to do this all over again. There's no fucking way I want
that way, but that's just me.
Really? So
it's about feeling that way, and I can think surface level when I think about my job and like, the day-to-day things that suck about life, like I would be like that. But when I think about the profound experiences of having love and experiencing love and receiving love and, making a positive impact on somebody else's life, like I would do that. I'll do this 100 times. Okay. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, look, the human experience is filled with, innumerable peaks and valleys that I am glad I got to have this opportunity, but I only want it once.
So maybe you've done it like 65 times.
Please don't say that.
Know it. So maybe that's why you feel that way.
I know, and that's
maybe
the worst part.
Tap me out, God, please.
I wouldn't even know if I'd done it so many times. I wouldn't. I'd just be doing it like. And here's the thing: there's no guarantee. First of all, I'll say that every Martin Luther King Day, Dad would take us to the library at Fort Leonard Wood, and we would rent this videotape, this documentary. There's like 30-40 minute documentary about Martin Luther King, and we watch it every January. And I remember this line Martin Luther King said in there, where before he started off on his civil rights campaign, he said that, and he believed that the way he saw it, life was just kind of wrapped up for him in a Christmas package. He's like, everything was just really smooth and easy. And he had so many advantages that other people didn't have. And I've identified with that for like 30 years now. It's like, man, I as far as your average human experience for the last 300,000 years, I got a fucking great deal. And even with this life, I wouldn't want to do it again. You're telling me I got to come back some random person that almost guarantees going to have a much shittier life than I had? It's like, yeah, or maybe I don't know, I'll come back as a box turtle or something. No, I just like.
Well, my belief system is that like, if you are a shit person, yeah, you're probably going to come. If you do have to come back, you're probably going to come back as like a turd or something, because you have something still to learn. You're a shit person. That's my opinion. But if you are like doing like, it almost sounds like Christianity. Like if you're sticking by your morals and love and light and being out, outside in the earth and experiencing other humans and the elements and stuff like that, then those are the things that reap a easier or a more positive next
Yeah.
experience. But this is all Delulu, so who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, it's just shot dark.
Have you ever seen The Good Place?
Is that a show on Netflix with Kristen, or the cute blonde girl that's married to Dax Shepard?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen an episode or two of it. I can't remember her name for some reason right now. She's also
I can't remember her name either.
Also
Kristen Wiig? But
yeah, good job.
Kristen Wiig. Yeah. Wow, you should watch the show sometime. Like, get her. Now, I watched the show. The show ended like 5-6 years ago, but a friend of mine asked me to watch it. And she was pestering me on it. She's like, "You watch it, watch it." I was like, "I gotta find it." And so I watched the first episode, and I was like, "Oh, this is good." And I think I watched the second one. So probably like you was like, "This is all right. You know, this is a cool concept. You know, you die and you go to heaven, and oh, heaven's actually kind of weird." And so she kept on me about the show, and I watched it, and it's one of the best written shows I have ever seen. I can't recommend it enough. At least the first season. The first season ranks up there with like any season of Breaking Bad or True Detective. But do me a favor. Do not read about it, because like you don't want you got to track what's happening, and you don't want to spoil surprises and stuff here and there. It's a good show, folks. Check out the Good Place. But
friend,
yeah, I highly recommend it. Oh, I gotta do this again. Okay, and so 2014. Look, this is how little research has been done on this. Like
my sister and I have to add a caveat in here for my middle sister that she pioneered this for
she trailblazer.
She has been on this shit, and she has been telling me that there's like she's been saying exactly what you're saying for years. So it's just funny to hear you say it.
Center's team emphasizes safety as a cornerstone of psychedelic research. Yeah, be safe. Let's see. 2014. John Hopkins researchers report that a small number of longtime smokers who had failed many attempts to drop the habit did so after a carefully controlled and monitored use of psilocybin, the active hallucinogenic agent in so-called magic mushrooms, in the context of a cognitive behavior therapy treatment program. I remember seeing this study, and I thought this was interesting that it helped people break their smoking habit, which is notoriously one of the most difficult habits to break. Yeah. And I remember so I bite my nails. I have a horrible nail biting habit, and I've been trying to break that habit my entire life. And I was like, oh, maybe this will help me. But then I remembered, oh yeah, they did this with the help of psychologists. They didn't just start, downing mushrooms.
Yeah,
I know. They didn't just take a few grams every day and get rid of bad habits. No, you still need the psychological help. So you said you gained new talents, Kayla, and learn more about yourself, as we all did. But any habits that you find yourself breaking?
Well, yeah, I think that that's a really good question. I'm about to give you a really sappy mom answer.
Let's go. Oh, you've mentioned this. I know where you're going.
Yeah,
okay.
Like I feel like I really struggled for a lot of years with my short fuse with my kids, and like I'm not gonna sit here and shit on myself as a mom. Like I've always done my best with them, and they're wonderful kids. But I didn't want to be a mom that was like always rushing my kids and always like just on them, and that's definitely where I was before I started getting into this stuff. So every time I do a trip, I try to think about what kind of mother I want to be and my temper and stuff like that. And a huge impact. 4 years ago, I was a mom that yelled every single day. And now and then something I put a lot of intentional work into, like, in my day-to-day life as well. But I credit a lot of it to these experiences, is that I'm able to just look at my children and now I can hone in and be like, this is not that big of a deal to me in my head, and get through these moments. And I know it's because of the things I've faced and the work I've done and in real life, but then also in these trips where I've just gotten down to, why am I like that? Where did I get that from? Why am I so mad at children? They're kids, and work through those things. And now I think I'm not a perfect mom. I'm a mediocre mom on my best day, but I'm a much more patient mom. And that's ultimately my biggest goal in life, is to be the best mom I can and just be as present as I can with them. I'm also, more present with them too. So I think it's had a drastic positive impact on everything about me, honestly. but yeah,
Yeah.
it's how I'm mom. And it's not like I know, you know, these experiences are separate from my children and all that stuff, but that's, you know, who I am as a working mother. And so when I go into them, I'm always trying to think about that stuff. I'm not saying I involve my children in this at all or whatever, but it has made me a better parent, you know, doing this in my personal time. So
Yeah, I can. I don't have children of my own, but I can't imagine how it would really make you focus on the dynamic of, you know, your responsibility and your obligation to the next generation that you know, you're responsible for. And the only way I can kind of extrapolate any sort of you know, similar concept is on a more broad scale, is that I spent a long time thinking about, one, my own mortality. I thought about it a whole lot, like and more than usual, you know, and like you said, not in a depressing way, but just like, hey, clock's ticking, you know, like you're not going to be around much longer, and so and how I treat other people and what I'm doing for other people, because I don't need to do much for myself anymore. I can I'm going to be fine. And the way I see it, you know, life is brutal. Life is cruel. Life is harsh. It is demanding, and it is just a slog for 99% of people just to make it, you know, day to day. And in a relatively short period of time, we are all going to be dead. Like shorter than you want to realize, we're all going to be gone. I guarantee everyone here has like knew someone from childhood who's dead today, multiple people who didn't make it to their 30s or 40s. And knowing that, I just think that we should strive to make life as pleasant and as comfortable and as free of pain and as enjoyable for as many people as we possibly can while we're here. And it being on the psilocybin really helps amplify that. And it seems so simple. Like, this isn't like, you know, earth-shattering advice here. Hey, make life pleasant for people on earth. Like, yeah, not
but something about it resonates differently in your brain.
Yes.
With this help. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you think about how we got here, just like how human beings, like I mentioned how, you know, comparing my life to any average person, and like anatomically modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years, and how there's nothing different about you physically than someone who was born 200,000 years. You're the exact same. But that person lived in the African savannah for 28 years before they died, you know, maybe eating a berry a couple of times in their life, you know, like living off grubs and roots, running from lions and shit, and, you know, not wearing clothes, just walking barefoot, just like that could have been you. That could have been your experience, you know. No medicine, like you got sick, you died. Sorry, that's just how it was. And seeing like how far we've made, and we like to shit on people because you mentioned how people are annoying, and you one thing I forgot to mention is that I mentioned like with the superpowers you get, supervision is one you get too, and like reading people
super annoyed.
Well, yes, because you reading micro expressions becomes very easy on psilocybin, like stuff that you kind of subconsciously feel, like, you know, where you just walk in, you're like, this person's got a bad vibe, and you're like, you don't know why, but you just feel there's a reason why. It's because, you know, the way that they're standing, the way that they're moving, like their facial expression, you're not consciously processing all that shit, but subconsciously you are. And you're like, okay, this person looks like they're in a bad mood. I can't tell you why, but I just kind of feel it. That's where you get, you know, vibes from. But you can actually see where you pick up vibes.
Secret from me, or I can.
Yeah. And so you can see where the vibes come from, though. Like you can, and when you're on the mushrooms. And while I get a lot of great creative ideas on mushrooms, like for making TikTok videos and stuff, I can't watch TikTok on mushrooms, because a lot of times when people are making content, they got to stand out. They got to find a way to, you know, catch your attention, and they're not acting in their normal capacity. They're being inauthentic, and you don't really notice it when you're just scrolling. But man, when you're on the shrooms, pick it up right away. Like that person's faking it.
Yeah. Fake
Yeah, and it just burns. It's like, why are you being so transparently inauthentic? It just bothers me. And so, yeah, that kind of gets you right there. But I agree. Let's see, what was the next one we got here? Psilocybin eases existential anxiety in people with life-threatening cancer. In a small double-blind study, Johns Hopkins researchers report that a substantial majority of people suffering cancer-related anxiety or depression found considerable relief for up to 6 months from a large dose of psilocybin, the active compound in hallucinogenic mushroom. That's interesting because I didn't know that. Because I'll just say this real quick. I have thought about this because in my experience, it doesn't necessarily improve my mood. It just amplifies my mood. So I have thought about this, that, man, if I was dying, like if I knew the lights were going to go out in a couple of months or something, I wonder if this would help or if it would just make me sadder. And I kind of focused on it would probably make me sadder. But according to that study, it took away depression.
Really up to you. I think it would be really.
That's what I think too.
When I used to, so like I told you, when I first did it, I was super scared. So there was a period in my life where like I was just like, it's not for me. Like I can't handle it. I get scared. I freak out. And I had so many people be like, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. Like you need to do it where you need to feel safe before you try it.
Yes.
You need to feel safe. You need to be in a pleasant mood. You need to, like you said, put on like happy music, movies that you like and stuff like that. Because if you don't like set your intentions, like I said, or create a positive environment for you to, and you might still think of things that, you have to face and deal with. You might still have to deal with some of the stuff, but at least you're not adding to that potential bad mix, then 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have that bad experience. But when I ask people who have had bad experiences like that, like what the circumstances of their experience was, it's almost always bad. I'm like, okay, well, try it again.
Yeah. It is funny though that you never know what exactly is going to set your mood in a different way.
Oh yeah, no, there's no exact
science. You can only do your best. You can only do your best, but you never, especially if you're new to it. Because I meant to. Keep forgetting stuff here. You were mentioning seeing God and things like that, or feeling like you're in the presence of God. So I got that feeling too. Well, I don't know. It wasn't that. It was more of a, you feel connected to something larger than yourself, just like, kind of like the experience you get at a concert or at a football game or something. It's just like, you can feel the energy of all the people. And taking them every single day for nearly a year, get used to it. And you're like, okay, yeah. Then the allure kind of fades away after a while. It's kind of, I don't know. I guess it's not this scary, but you guys remember in Lord of the Rings when Frodo would put on the ring and he was in that weird like spirit world with like the demons, like what are they called? I forget, the Death Eaters or something.
Yeah.
And so you kind of feel like that, like you're lost in a different reality. But then after you're on it for a while, you're not scared by it anymore. And but some things will scare you. I remember cats. Cats always scare.
I was like, where were you hanging out with bats, bro?
No, oh God, can you imagine hanging out in a cave? That'd be the worst.
That's funny that you say that, because Scarlett, maybe she's my emotional support animal, but anytime that I am having a bad experience, and this could be totally sober too, like I could be having a panic attack in the middle of the day, she comes to me and she'll like get on my chest and help me calm down. But you get scared of Wolfie?
Well, it wasn't Wolfie. It wasn't Wolfie, because Wolfie, I don't think we had Wolfie at the time when I first started, but he's just a baby. But
just a baby.
He's just a baby. He acts like it. But it was our cat Tika, and I remember I was just standing there. Well, there was two things that happened. I remember the first one was that the world was ending, watching The Day After Tomorrow. And Tika is a coward. She's a scaredy. She's a little scared. She's afraid of everything. And I just had this idea of like the president just died in The Day After Tomorrow. And I laughed for like an hour straight at this scenario of like,
that part.
Oh no, I laughed because they'll need a new president. And I was like, what if they made Tika president? And I was like, what if they made Tika president? And Tika was like, President Tika, the world's in winter. And Tika's hiding under the desk because she's so scared. And I just started laughing at that. But then, later on, like that night or maybe the next night, I looked the two cats, Tika and Cigarette, I would look them in the eye and scared me to death. And I remember, I will never forget what I said because I still think it whenever I said, I said, Tika is looking at me like she knows. And I was like, well, wait, like she knows what? I don't know. But that's what it looks like. The cat's like looking at the cat's eyes just scared the shit out of me. So, I mean, they don't in normal life, not that I know of, but when I look in those cats' eyes and they look back at me, and cats already have a weird, like, supernatural vibe about them anyway. And like, you know how they're always chasing shit that's not there and staring at things that's not there?
Well, we could really do an episode on cats. I have a lot to add. I have a lot to say about this. It would be super weird, so I won't. But like, research cats in history. Like, everybody has been like, "What's up with the cats?" And I think that everybody was onto something. And you were probably right. They know things. Or,
Cats are weird.
Or maybe they're in the recycle rotation. Like, I very often talk about Scarlet, and I say she's not a cat. Like, she is. I call her my familiar. If you know what that is. Kudos to you. If you don't, whatever. But
I don't.
Okay, well, so familiar, most commonly known as like a witch's companion. It's an animal that's your companion.
Okay.
And it's really like a spirit energy that's there doing more than being your companion, like kind of looking out over you or whatever.
Like Salem.
Yeah, exactly, like Salem. Yeah. So I often joke and say that, you know, Scarlet's my little familiar and she's not a cat, but like, I'm so serious. She's not. I've had the same experiences. Like, that's a human cat. I don't give a fuck. She's so smart. Like, she's so whatever. So yeah, that makes total sense. But I have a little funny animal, well, not animal thing, but the last time I did I had a big experience. I was out here in the mountains, and I was sitting and watching like a forest line right over the mountains. I was sitting in like a little valley area, and I remember it being like, okay, I know that the trees are not flashing. Like, there's no flashing, right? And I moved on in my trip, but then I needed to know what I was seeing, because most of the time when people think this is not official. Okay, this is coming directly out of my ass. What is about to come out of my mouth? I think that you can hallucinate on shrooms, but most of the time when I see something, I go back later and it just wasn't what I thought it was. So this is one of those experiences. I saw the lights. There's lights just all over this tree line, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And I went back the next night. It was fireflies. I watched the most beautiful, incredible.
Oh, that would be cool.
Display I'd ever seen, and my brain, I couldn't even handle. Never crossed my mind that there were fireflies that night when I was, having my experience. But the next night, I went back and I could clearly see them. But can't even describe what it felt like the night before, though, because I was just like, wow.
Like, it would be amazing to see. Yeah, that would be really fun to see, because it's hard to explain too if you haven't done it, because I was expecting like, kaleidoscope. It's not like that. It's just that if you look at something, you can kind of warp it. It's kind of cool, especially if it's on a screen. It's a lot easier to do. You can just make stuff move and everything. That actually kind of freaked me out when I figured out that I could just.
Oh, have you watched a tree for like, have you just sat and watched a tree?
I haven't watched a tree, no, but a lot of other things. But a tree is weird. I've watched curtains, grass, the sky. The sky is really great to watch on it. Yeah, but you can it's hard to explain. Like your eyes are not moving, but you can make stuff around your eye.
More than you've ever seen before.
Yeah.
More than you've ever seen before.
Look, colors are more vibrant than you thought were humanly possible. And I remember when this happened. Now, this is one of the weird times that this is why, like, I hate admitting I'm a nerd. Everyone knows. I don't know why I hate admitting it, but it's just that, yeah. And so, like, whenever I remember noticing this, like, I saw it was a green, I think, and it was the most vibrant green I had ever seen. And I was like, whoa. And then I thought, oh, I bet I know why. Because when you're under the influence, your eyes dilate. And when your eyes dilate, you let in more light. And so that means I can see the light. Say what?
That makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So I remember thinking that when it happened, because I was like, how is this happening? And I remember one time, you ever have a dream where you could fly? I have.
I'm failing to fly, but yeah, I'll fly for a minute.
Well, so I had a dream once that I could fly, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. But then it got really scary, because I was like, oh, I can fly, but I don't have wings. So I can't slow myself down. Like I'm just gonna keep going in a straight. I know I've made it so fucking literal.
So slow in this crazy train.
And I couldn't land either because I could fly, but I didn't have like invulnerability. So if I land, I just broke my legs.
No wheels.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just gonna shatter everybody. Like, so my brain thinks like that a lot of times. So I was so happy at first. Oh yeah, it's because the dilation of the light and everything. But yeah, it's really cool how it amplifies your all of your senses are better. I don't know if my hearing's better. I don't have the evidence my hearing's better. Well, it is because of the music. Yeah, the music. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everything is better. I think it's a really positive thing. I mean, other than, having to be cautious and safe and aware of, the who, what, when, where, and how, and all that stuff, it's been nothing but a positive thing for me. And I wish that there was more studies. Like, I think that, we've all know that we don't use all of our brains. And from my opinion, if it comes out of the earth, like, whoever put it there for me, who's God? Somebody's God put it there for me. So let's experience it. I don't know, but it's just a positive thing. It does a lot and it makes a lot of sense. I haven't run across much about it that doesn't make sense to me yet. So
it all kind of makes sense when you put it together. This is there's a couple more, but I wanted to this one right here, I noticed the psychedelic drug psilocybin tamps down brain's ego center. The brain scans after psilocybin, you showed that, I don't know what colostrum is. Colostrum was less active, meaning the area of the brain believed responsible for setting attention and switching tasks is turned down when on the drug. The researchers say that this ties in with what people report as the typical effects of psychedelic drugs, including feelings of being connected to everything and reduced senses of self and ego. Kayla, have you experienced ego death?
I'm always going to be, I'm like you, I'm a little narcissistic and I think I'll always be that way. But yeah, I mean, well, I don't know if it's ego.
How many times?
But I don't know, a lot. Every time I take a trip, I realize like nothing's that serious, like including my ego, including all of these things that profoundly impact nothing's that serious. Let me not go down the rabbit hole, but I think that yes, I've had those death of my ego many times, and usually it's not just about me, but it's like a lot of things. Like none of our skin suits really matter. Like we're all consciousness. I'm thinking about stuff like that. So yeah, I think that I'm definitely more anchored in things that really matter to me. So yeah.
Well, wow. First off, good on you for experiencing the ego death many times. Second, I don't appreciate that you just casually called me a narcissist. I am one, but not cool.
I said we have narcissistic tendencies.
Okay.
Here, okay. If I didn't say that, that's what I meant. I said a little bit of a narcissist. I meant
it's okay. I am, but so which is why ego death terrified me because I got close, and it's hard to say I could prove I got close, but this is the best way I can describe it: is that I would lay down, and I remember. And I knew it because I heard people describe it this way. It felt like I was melting into the mattress. It's like when you realize that, your body is just put together by atoms and that these atoms are made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons that are mostly empty space, which is weird to think about, that atoms are like 90% empty space, meaning you are 90% empty space. It's just odd. And then you start thinking, well, what's the difference between the matter of my body and the matter of this bed and the matter of the air and the matter of the house and the matter of the ground? And you're like, oh, it's all, slowed down energy. Like literally what it is. Matter is just, slowed down energy. And then you just start to blend in and you realize that all of this is just the same shit. Like it's all, all matter, at least. I mean, we don't have to talk about dark matter or dark energy or antimatter, stuff like that we're actually not. But I really felt like I was melting into the mattress, and then I got this weird buzz in my ears. It was just like this static, and I knew ego death was about to happen. I was like, no, fuck that. I'm out of here.
You need to go. You need to let that happen.
Well, this happened to me like a dozen times where I would get to the edge of it and chicken out because it's terrifying. And I finally did it. I finally did it a long time ago. It was months ago, probably 6-8 months ago. And I finally did it. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I didn't enjoy it. I did not enjoy it at all because it's the loss of the sense of you. And not only the loss of the sense of you, but the realization that you doesn't really exist. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
like
I'm glad that you. I don't want us to go too long. I'm going to try to make this really quick, but I'm glad that you just described that because before I started getting into this, I was going to therapy, and I remember my therapist trying to teach me. I have severe anxiety, and I've always struggled with severe anxiety and severe depression. Not so much now, but knock on wood.
yeah.
So she would try to teach me these tools like Kayla, like feel the chair under you. You're right here, like making me draw attention to my senses all the time. And it was frustrating for me because I was like, I don't give a fuck about my senses right now. I'm having a panic attack.
Right, yeah.
Are you listening to this thing? And it was a very similar experience, like definitely Death of an Ego. And then after that, these tools that my therapist had been long trying to teach me clicked. And now, like when I am working through a panic attack or something, I can anchor to my senses. And I was never able to do that because my ego was in the way. I was so worried about all these other shit. And now, I've had those experiences. I believe it. And I know that like, no matter what the fuck is going on, if I can feel my feet on the ground, I'm fine. If I can feel these fingers, I'm fine, or whatever. So, yeah, I'm glad you described it that way because it was the same for me. But that's just a little thing.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird thinking about the existence of your ego and what does you being here mean, and just trying to grapple that with the existence of the rest of reality. But I'll end it up with a quote. I can't remember where it's from, but that human consciousness was a tragic misstep of evolution. We became too self-aware. Nature created an aspect of nature separate from itself. We are beings who should not exist by natural law. We are things that labor under the illusion of having a self, this accretion of sensory experience and feeling, programmed with absolute certainty that we are each somebody when really everybody's nobody. And it's like, that's how you feel. And then you start to focus on the reality of that it never really goes away. Like it doesn't. And being you is great. And so that's why ego death is so difficult and so hard to think about. Yeah. But it stays in the back of your mind after you're done. So, well, all right. Well, hey,
a fun episode and good for doing it live. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I know. Good stuff. Good stuff. I appreciate it. And everyone checking in, we'll get you back later and hope you enjoyed your time.
Bye.
Gotta go. Bye. Good shit. All right.